Hi, this is David Kelley, and I'm back with another episode of Becoming Competitive. This episode, we're going to talk about how to pick a list, and specifically how to pick a competitive list. And this is going to be the first real fork in the road, where I think a lot of players aren't going to necessarily like what you may need to do to become more competitive, and just don't want to do it. So everything we've talked about so far is just general play, general making good decisions, that kind of thing, which I don't know that anyone would not want to make the best decision they could, especially if they knew the correct information. However, this is a Star Wars game, this is a miniatures game, and everyone wants to play the game in their own way. Well, playing the game in the way you want to play it does not necessarily equal competitive play. So, the first big hurdle here is you got to get over net listing. Guess what? Net listing, probably the best way to find a good list. I say this because guess what? Most of the X-Wing community are not good list builders. It's just true. Most people don't build good lists. Now, that's not to say people can't build good lists, and at some point I will definitely make a couple videos on how to build a list and the ways I go about building lists, because I have made a couple pretty good ones in my time. But the reality is, especially for a lot of players that are right on the cusp of starting to make those cuts more consistently, just getting into a top tier list and practicing it is going to help you a ton when it comes to just making those cuts, to becoming a better player. Now, this does not mean don't have fun, don't enjoy what you're doing, but it does mean, you know what, we may need to use some tools out there to see what is good. Maybe putting marksman on all of our ships because we like the upgrade isn't quite the correct decision to make. So with that being said, please just, net listing is fine. It is a great thing. It is how you're going to get into some of the top lists. If you refuse to play what is meta, you're going to have a lot of trouble sometimes. Now, that's not to say you can't come up with your own build, and certainly try, because I know some players, they get so much enjoyment out of just building lists for 6 hours a week and then playing one game. But it's the building lists that gives them the enjoyment, and that's fine. But that type of player is probably not going to be a competitive player. And that's perfectly okay. But this series is for the competitiveness. So, the tool we're going to use today, because I'm a fan of tools, it makes my life easier, it makes your life easier, is Metawing. Now, the key here is you're going to pick a list and you want to become competitive with it. So what that means is, and we're going to go into how to practice in a later video, but this list, you're going to play 2, 3, 4 weeks, 2 months, 3 months in a row. Maybe not every time you go play, but you should be trying to get a lot of reps in with a list. Most players really don't even get a hang of a list until they've got, 8 to 10 games in? And I know I don't even master lists until I'm pushing 50 plus. And by master, I mean, I basically know the different openings I want to do. I know the different styles I want to play against different types of lists and that kind of thing. So you're going to want to get a lot of reps in with your list. So the most important thing in achieving getting those reps is you have to pick a list that's fun for you. Now, there's one of two ways to do this. The first is, there's 3 ways. So, when I first started X-Wing, this was a much harder thing to do because there wasn't as much YouTube content out there. But now, there's tons of places to find stream games. So, if you're a guy that likes to sit there and watch all of the world streams, or watch all of Nova, or just sit there and go through Gold Squadron's archive of lists, or archive of played games, That's great. Watch YouTube. When you see a list that you're like, ooh, that looks fun, find out if it's a competitive list. And if it's on a stream, one of two things are true. It's either a competitive list or it's an incredibly unique list. So if it's a incredibly unique list, maybe it's just something that one guy happens to have a niche in, and he's just a master at it. Nobody else can do it. The reality is, if it's going to be a competitive list, it's really easy to find out. You can look up the archetype on Metawing, which we're about to go into, or you can see how that list is performed in List Fortress at different tournaments and stuff like that. Plus, the commentators, if you watch the game, will probably mention if it's a good list or not. But watch streams. That's a good way to get list ideas. Now, the other way is pick a pilot. Now, I'm assuming most folks that are watching this that want to be competitive players have a general grasp of the actual game itself. Like, we're not going over intro stuff here. So I'm assuming you've been playing the game for a while, at least 6 months. Maybe you've been playing 2 months and you're just a quick learner. But I'm assuming you have a base of knowledge and you know generally what's good, what's bad. In today's current meta, we know Phantoms are good. We know Rebel Beef has been nerfed a few times, and it's still great. We know Separatist Swarms are really good. We know Tabs and Kylo Quick Draw, pretty good list. There's a lot of things we know. So what I would do is, especially looking at the fun aspect, go through all the ships and be like, I like that pilot. And this is how I came up with my list. I didn't Metawing it, but it was how I got to my list was I picked a pilot. In my case, it was Echo. So if you want to fly Echo or any other list, pick your pilot and then go looking. I'm not going to choose Echo because I'm not going to look up my stuff here. But if I were to say I want to play a faction I know nothing about, what's a good faction? What's a good pilot that I think would be fun to play? That is good. I mean, Anakin. Anakin's great. So we're going to go to pilots. I'm going to search Anakin Skywalker. We found him right here in the Aether Sprite. So I'm just going to click on him. Now, Metawing, if you pick your pilot, is going to bring up some notable squads, common upgrades, all that kind of stuff. The key thing here is I'm going to go to more squadrons. This is going to bring up a whole list. And this is going to tell you if the pilot you've chosen is truly competitive. Because here we can see 43 players, first place. 22 players, second. 73, second. 27, second. 30, fourth. We've got some decent-sized tournaments where he's placing well. World Championship, Day 2, top 16. That's something I want to take note of. Combined standings, 16th, or 93, which, yeah, Swiss and cut. So, 93rd. That's pretty good. A lot of smaller tournaments. But, I mean, there's some good standings here in some pretty decently sized tournaments. We got Hyperspace Trials, Grand Championship, even though it was a small one, Hyperspace Trial, and then Day 2 of Worlds. So we've now found some lists. Now what I would do is I would start looking at all the good tournaments, the tournaments that are of a reasonable size. Hyperspace Trials, Worlds, I'd skip this one because it's only a 9-player thing. But anything with like 40-ish or more players, probably a decent tournament to look at. So, Obi-Wan, Rick, Anakin. Okay. Interesting. Obi-Wan, Rick, Anakin. We're seeing a theme. 39, 29. We're seeing a Gold Squadron Trooper here. Interesting. Red Squadron Bomber. Interesting. But now go through here, and any of these lists that catches your attention that you might want to play, put it to the side. So, and then I would pick a different pilot and do the same thing. And pick 2 or 3 pilots that you might want to play and try and grab a list for each of them from the notable squadrons that looks interesting to you. Then the other way to do it is just to go to list archetypes, pick a faction you like. I'm an Empire player for the most part, so I'm just going to scroll down. Boom, Imperial Aces. TIE Advance, Interceptor, Striker. So, Soontir, Vader, Duchess or Pierce Sabak, probably. Okay. I don't know that I want to play that, so I'll keep going. Phantom, Advanced, Advanced. Now this one grabs my attention because it's two different Advanced than a Phantom. So I'm going to open this up and see what we're looking at. So we got Vader, Grand Inquisitor, Whisper. Vader, Grand Inquisitor, Whisper. Beautiful. And look, made the cut. Actually, it won champs. This is Oliver, right? Yeah. All right, so this is Ali Pocknell's list. Boom. World champion winning list. Awesome. All right. I think I might want to try this. It won Worlds. Can't be that bad of a list, right? So I'm going to grab this list, put it to the side. Do this 2 or 3 times, 3 or 4 times, whatever. Get a chunk of lists, and then just go through them and maybe sleep on it. Whatever. But put the list aside. When you finally make your decision on which one you want to actually play, take it to your store. Play it, a full league night or casual play night, whatever it is. Maybe it's 3 games, maybe it's 5 games, maybe it's 2 games. I don't know how much you play. But play your list. If you enjoy the list, ignore the winning and losing, right? We're not worried about the winning and losing the first time we take a list out. We want to win, obviously. We're trying to win. But winning's not the most important part. The most important part is, am I having fun with this list? And if you are, the next question you need to ask yourself is this list my playstyle? Is this list something I would enjoy doing and I'm good at doing? And my perfect example here is I am an ace player. I like my aces. I have a sticker still on my shirt. I'm going to take that off while I'm talking. But I'm an ace player. I love my aces. I'm not a very good rebel player, though. I've played some rebel lists, and every once in a while I'll take a rebel list out for a spin just because I think it's important to play all the different archetypes. But I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to win a major tournament playing rebels. It's just not going to happen. Sure, I'll make the cut, maybe. I'm a competent player at it, but it's not my forte. I don't enjoy it. I mean, it's fun to do every now and again, but playing 20, 30 games with it, no. After the 20th game, I'd be like, could somebody shoot me now, please? I'm done with this. So it has to be a list that not only is fun for you, but you're also good at flying. Like, I'm not good at flying it, and that's why it's not fun. But I don't like box formations. I don't like formation flying in general. So that style list is out. I like my aces. I like my oddball list, too. So if it's fun and it's your style of flying, awesome. Take it out, take it for a spin, see how you enjoy the list. If you like the list and you know it's a good list, now it's time to seriously start practicing that list. And we'll go into how to practice a list later. But, because that's going to be a whole other video. But right now it's like, all right, cool. We finally found our list. Now, we're not done with finding our list, because we found the basic blueprint for our list. Now, me and Ollie are probably 2 different players, right? 2 completely different players. So I've got his list here, which I know is a top tier list. So what I'm going to do, once I've found this list, and I've decided, you know what, I'm going to put the time and effort in, I'm going to play this list. If you're the type of person that only can get 5 games max in a week, you might need to play this list for 2, maybe 3 weeks. Because you want to get that 10 to 15 games in with a list you know is top tier, which you know can perform at the highest level, which this list clearly can. Now, once you got those 10 or 15 games in, now you need to start looking at it and going, is there any way I can improve this list for me? Now, this may be the best possible version of this list that can be made. And I'm not one to second guess the world champion. Not going to do it. He won the world championship with this. This is probably the best version of this list out there. But what I will do is say, this may not be the best possible version of this list for me. So, me just looking at this, I'm looking at the Grand Inquisitor, and he's got no upgrades on him other than the title, I believe. Why isn't it letting me hover over the title? I don't know. But I'm looking at this going, man, I really want something on the Grand Inquisitor. And I'm also looking at this going, I don't particularly care for Whisper, but I do love Echo. And Echo is cheaper than Whisper, which means, in my mind, maybe I can downgrade or upgrade from Whisper to Echo, have another point or two or three, I don't know how many point difference they are, and maybe I can get something else on the Inquisitor that will help the list even more. Maybe that's not true, but I'm going to start looking at it and trying to figure out how can I make this list better suited to my playstyle. Because remember, we're going to start with the basis of a net list, and then you want to tweak it to you. So I would look at this. I'd probably be pulling Whisper out, subbing Echo in, maybe adding something to the Grand Inquisitor. I don't know how the points work, but that's my first instinct here. And what I'm going to do is play 2 or 3, 4 games with that new tweaked version. And I'm going to be consciously thinking the whole time, if I had Whisper here, would it be better than what I changed to? And if it is, maybe I go back to the original version because it was better. However, if it's not, maybe I found a good tweak. Maybe I've changed this, what started as a net list, to be still a net list, but my version of the net list. And a perfect example of this is a friend of mine, local guy. Again, I'm not naming anyone in this because I don't want to call people out. But we were working on lists, and basically we net listed a list for him. And it involved a couple scum ships and Old Terok. Well, he played the list probably 4 or 5 times, and he was immediately like, I really enjoy this part of the list, but Old Terok pisses me off. I keep just losing him for no reason. I have trouble flying him. I don't utilize his ability much. He's just not my style of flying. I like the rest of the list, but Old Terok is just giving me, it's not working for me. So we sat down and we figured out, based on his flying style, taking Old T out and putting in Cavil suited the way he liked to fly a lot more. So we did that, and all of a sudden, he just started crushing people with that list. It was amazing. It was one little tweak. He took a known, good, solid, winning net list, played it, realized part of that net list didn't work with him. So he modified the part that didn't work with him to fit him better, and all of a sudden, boom, he's got a monster list that's crushing pretty hard. So if you want to become competitive, you gotta start net listing a little bit. It doesn't mean you can't put your own tweaks and flourishes on a list. That's fine. But getting into a solid known quantity is going to help. And a few of the reasons it's going to help are purely psychological. So if you build your own list, like you build your own brand new list from the ground up, and you put it on the table, in the back of your mind, you're probably always going to be thinking, whether consciously or subconsciously, is this list even good? And because it's never had a good performance, it's out of your imagination, out of your brain, you don't know. That's not to say you didn't come up with the best list the game's ever seen. It is to say, however, you're going to have that doubt. So until you start becoming very confident in your ability to, one, list build, and 2, play in the competitive scene at the highest level, I would lean towards net listing and tweaking rather than full own invention. Now, I talked about some tweaks I would make to this Oliver list, but I just looked at this. I mean, when I'm list building and all that, I'm going to spend a long time building my lists. It's not going to be a 10-minute thing or whatever. But I do want to look at my list that I made that I won nationals with, and I took to Worlds and did very well with. And I've got it pulled up here. So it's Psy with title, Vader, hate, passive, afterburner, and then Echo, Juke, fifth brother, passive. Now, the two parts of this list, which I think, well, the two parts of this list for me that were never going to be in question or changed were Psy and Echo. Now, the title came on and off depending on what this other quantity was. I like having the title there, but the title was an optional thing. It could have come off or not. However, to me, Vader was the last piece of this list. However, I know for most players, Echo is going to be the piece here that gets removed a lot. And I say that because Echo is the hardest part of this list to fly. Now, I love Echo, and I started with Echo, so I kind of went backwards. But if I were a player looking at this list and I put it on the table a bunch and Echo was the problem I was having trouble with, you know what? We just get rid of her. Got 130 points and a possible, or I've got 70 points with a possible 4 more. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to look. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go down this list and look at ships I know that are good. And I'm looking for a decent, solid third ship, or possibly 2 generics, or 3 generics, something like that. But when I've got Psy here, I'm probably looking at a 3-ship build. So the first thing I'm going to do is go, Alpha's class, no. I don't want another shuttle. Grand Inquisitor's a thought. I don't know how much he is, so we're going to put him in there. Alright. Now I've got an 18-point bid at the moment. So, we're definitely going to put some upgrades on him. Cluster missile, now homing. Probably just the concussion for the 3-dice attack. Or a proton rocket. I like either one of these. But we'll go with the concussion for now. What do we want here? FCS is an interesting one. Passive's probably an interesting one. We're going to go with passive because I'm not too interested in a bid. And then force, I'm going to sense. Now I've got a 4-point bid. That feels weird to me. So the next thing I would do is look in the crew slot, see if there's anything I would want to put here for 4 points. Not really. So Grand Inquisitor, just point-wise, isn't really doing it for me. So I'm going to keep looking. Defender. I know defenders are good. PS1 Defender, 69 points. That brings me to 199. I know defenders are solid ships. So I'm going to look at this build and say, I know the list when this actually flies was using Echo as bait. And Vader would kind of joust with the shuttle. So if I put the defender in here, the defender could joust with the shuttle and Vader could be bait. And so if Psy is coordinating to the defender, that'll give him his focus. He'll get the free evade, and then that lets the defender possibly take his own target lock. So all of a sudden it's like, I like that. But the change I would make here is drop title, 4 passive sensors. This is a PS1, right? I don't know what I'm necessarily going to be shooting. So I think I want the passive sensors there rather than the title. And then I've got 2 points. Anything for 2 points? Not really. But 198, this looks like a solid build. So I would take this, put it to the side, and say, I want to test this. Alright, so now we're going to go back. We're going to keep looking. Aggressor, no. Punisher. I've seen some Redline stuff, but I personally am not a big fan of Bomber Punisher stuff, so I'm going to skip it. Because remember, we're going for your playstyle. He's not my playstyle. I'm skipping it. It might be your playstyle, the person watching this video, so maybe you want to look at Redline, but I don't. Don't want to replace Echo with another Phantom. So that would leave us with, where's the Interceptor? There it is. In the back of my head, I was like, maybe we just go with the classic Soontir. So he almost always wants Predator. Then I want some sort of hull or shield, so we'll start with the shield. Can I get the hull too? Beautiful, I can get the hull. Awesome. Now I'm sitting here going, man, This happens to fit real nice. This actually feels like a pretty good alternate to Echo also. So I would take this, and I think this and the Defender both fit my playstyle pretty good, for different reasons. But this would be, I would try this version of the list and the Defender version of the list, and just see which one seemed to click for me. Now, maybe they both don't, and you go back to the Echo build. Okay, personally, I think the Echo build's superior. But in this particular case, these are two very good alternates to a known good quantity, if that makes sense. So that's generally how I go about picking a list without building it from scratch. And I've definitely done this with a bunch of local players. Kind of taken a net list, watched them play it a few times, or had them play it against me a few times, and then be like, what part of the list do you think is your weakest? They'll say something. Sometimes I agree with it, sometimes I don't. I'll then tell them, well, even though you thought that was weak, I was scared of it the whole time, and so I was staying away from it. And so maybe you felt it was weak because he was never in combat, even though he was controlling the combat. I actually thought this was the weakest part. And kind of have that discussion. And that's something you should be doing too. When you're playing these lists, especially when you're playing them against a good player in your local area, after the game, talk about it. Ask him, what did I do that scared you? Why did you do this? Try and figure out what your list is doing to their mind, and that'll help you understand how your list is working. But I hope this was helpful in how to pick a list, and how to, once you've picked a list, how to kind of tweak it to fit you. Because if you're not in a very solid core base list, it's going to be hard to actually go forward, especially in the competitive scene, especially in X-Wing when things change so often. Anyway, hope this was helpful. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Have a good one.